What happens when you're on set minding your own business and find yourself in a scene sitting next to the iconic legendary actor George C. Scott, aka General Patton? Stay tuned. Big movies can be daunting. Too early, too many people, too many carbs. Today is one of those calls. There's at least 200 background actors. We've been bussed out to the Belmont Racetrack in Long Island, New York, to work on the remake of the classic 1980 movie Gloria. Originally starred Gina Rowland, directed and written by John Cassavetes, a brilliant Hollywood classic movie. This remake is directed by Sidney Lumet, huge Hollywood director. Dog Day Afternoon, Serpico Network, The Verdict. This remake stars Sharon Stone as Gloria and George C. Scott as Rudy. The horse track scene is being shot from the fourth floor of the clubhouse in the Garden Terrace restaurant. Place is packed, standing room only. An assistant director motions for me to follow her, and we weave our way through the throngs until we reach an elegantly laid out table overlooking the racetrack. The AD places me in a seat closest to the track, up one level, and slightly to my right, I see the director, Sidney Lumet. He's behind the camera, peering through the lens that's focused on our tape. Enter George C. Scott, flanked by two men. He's got one arm over each guy, and they're helping him walk. And I wonder where they're taking him when they sit him in the vacant chair next to me. He smiles at me, and we say hello. This is amazing. I can't believe my good fortune. Patton is one of my favorite films. Scott, one of my favorite actors. He's the consummate actor. He does stage and screen, comedy, drama, Inherit the Wind, Present Laughter, Dr. Strangelove, The Hustler. And I love that in 1962, he refused his Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor in The Hustler. He said, acting is not a competition. In 1971, he refused the Oscar for Best Actor in Patton and won anyway. The film, Patton and Mr. Scott, have a special place in my heart because my dad served in Patton's Third Army during World War II, and he looks a whole heck of a lot like George C. Scott, aka General Patton. My dad and I watched the movie Patton together, and there's a scene in the film where a huge blizzard is going on, and Patton has the chaplain brought in and tells him, you need to tell the big guy to stop the snowfall by dawn so we can attack in the morning. At dawn, the snow stopped and they attacked. Dad leaned to me and says, that's true. That happened. I was there. I've watched the movie Patton many, many times, and it dawned on me. My dad modeled himself after this tough, proud, no BS warrior general. The way he dressed, the way he carried himself, his determination, fierceness, and total commitment to the cause. And I'm sitting next to General Patton. I read somewhere that Scott was insecure about his portrayal of Patton because he wasn't a military man. And I wanted to tell him that my colonel father, who served under Patton in World War II, thought he was brilliant. This is a tricky situation. We're not supposed to speak to a star unless spoken to. They could be preparing, and this is an imposing guy, but I turned to him to open my mouth to speak, and I'm overwhelmed with emotion. I have to turn away. Scott looks like my dad, who died 6 years earlier, and I also realized Scott is very ill. He has that look that people get when they're not long for this world. I try again, but I start to cry. I mean, this is ridiculous. I'm unable to look at Scott for the rest of the scene. Every time I do, I cry. And he's going to think that I'm some crazed, unhinged background person. The horses are at their starting gates. The camera and lighting are in place. Time to shoot the scene. Sidney Lumet addresses the crowd. You bet on a horse. You need to decide if your horse wins or loses. We're not recording dialogue. Feel free to cheer and yell. The AD tells me, please stand, watch the race. I select horse number 3 because that's my lucky number. Action. The gun fires. The horses explode out of their gates, thunder down the track. The crowd is screaming and yelling and flailing their arms, and I cheer, number 3, come on, number 3, come on, 3. Then the deafening sound of loud cheers and applause from the lucky winners as the horses cross the finish line, and number 3 doesn't even place. I toss my ticket down on the table and sit Cut, checking the gate. The gate is the term for the lens of the camera, and it's always checked after a shot is completed to make sure there's no dust or random hair on the lens. Gate's clear. Moving on. Sidney Lumet, a master filmmaker from the old school, is known for his single takes and fast-paced shooting style. I turned to Mr. Scott, but before I can speak, the two men who brought him in escort him out. I decide to write him a letter and mail it to his agent. I write the letter, but life has a way of taking over, and I didn't manage to send it before his death on September 22nd of that year. Gloria opens in theaters and goes unnoticed. I didn't go see it. I'm a snob. I have a problem with Hollywood trying and repeatedly failing at remaking classics. Enough already. One evening, a friend calls. Have you seen the remake of Gloria? No. Why would I do that? Well, you're in it. I am? Yes. As what? Oh, you don't know. You're a high-class call girl. Cool. I could use the cash. I rent the movie when it comes out on video, and sure enough, Scott, aka Rudy, a notorious crime boss, hangs out at the racetrack with high-class call girls, aka me. There I am, immortalized forever on film as a hooker in a scene with George C. Scott. About a year later, while watching the Belmont Stakes on television, I have an epiphany. My father, he set this whole thing up. He sent George C. Scott to sit next to me at the racetrack that day. My dad was a highly accomplished equestrian in his day. He loved the races, built the stables at Fort Jackson Military Base in South Carolina so we could have a horse, was a pony club judge, and both my sisters competed. And what better place for me to meet old blood and guts than at the Belmont Racetrack? Dad's got quite a sense of humor. He must have gotten a big chuckle out of that. But a hooker? Really? I mean, am I supposed to be flattered by that? Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and leave your favorite George C. Scott movie or performance in the comments below. I'll see you next week.